Hello and welcome to Dragon Budget, where my goal is to help you play the Dragon Ball Super card game without spending all of your zenny. Today we're talking about the new set that just came out, Saiyan Showdown. I was able to get a box of this last weekend at my pre-release, as well as play in a pre-release tournament and get some additional packs. And what I wanted to talk about today was the process by which I go through a new set and try to find cards that I think are relatively playable, while also being on the cheap. So I'm going to go through kind of a leader and card set of all 5 colors today, from the new set, and we're going to see what that looks like. Now, first of all, we have red with Sun Goten. Like family Kamehameha going on here. Now, first, when I look at this leader, I see a couple of interesting things. He has an awakening ability off of playing a 3-drop unison. Those are always interesting because you can just kind of auto awaken. He attacks when draws, which is great. On his other side, we can see, he still attacks when he draws. He's got a cool effect where you can kind of KO a 15k battle card and get some additional pumps. And he plays a 1-drop Goku, which we'll get to later, from your deck. So overall, it seems like a pretty interesting leader. Then as I look through the cards here, we've got this Super Saiyan Sun Gohan. This is going to kind of be our premier 3-drop unison for this deck. Interesting thing about this is you can play it for 2 mana. It's a nice unison that draws a card. And just overall, it's a very cheap option for this deck. Then I saw this 3-drop Speed Rush Sun Gohan. Very interesting card. Able to, kind of play it, negate an attack, draw a card, get a 15k out. You can play him for 2 mana. You're not that crazy on its own, but when you combine it with this card, this 4-drop Sun Goku, or Sun Gohan, excuse me, opposing the demon, this card is very, very good. A 20k dual attacker with deflect. It has the ability to tap your leader or unison and can neg 15 your opponent's whole board and can attack twice a turn. Plus, we can evolve it for 2 energy straight off of our Speed Rush Sun Gohan we talked about earlier. So this immediately piqued my interest as a very strong card, especially for an uncommon. So this is going to be something I'm going to want to build around. Then we just got Videl opposing the demon. Decent card, helps search some of your Gotens or Trunks from your deck, and more importantly, it can actually play this really good Sun Gohan we talked about earlier from your deck. Pretty standard Sun Goten searcher card from the new set that lets you kind of find your unison or some of your other cards you're looking for. Just a good card. One good thing about playing a deck that's focused on a 3-drop unison is we can run this brand new Videl counterplay. This card is still relatively cheap right now because most people are focused on, King Piccolo 2-drop decks in terms of unisons in red. So you could also use Yamcha as a cheaper option, but this is a very interesting card. The only card I didn't pull from this archetype actually is the 1-drop Goku that completes the family Kamehameha. I was able to look it up and see that when you have that 1-drop Goku, he basically allows you to pay some energy and tap him and your unison to give this Goten leader a bunch of extra attack for the turn and let him triple strike. So it's a really good finisher. So I think with this leader combined with some of these other cards, especially this Gohan, this seems like a pretty budget friendly and potentially good casual archetype to start off with the set. So this is something I want to be immediately looking at for red. Now for blue, we have Super Saiyan Kaba, Proud Volley. Now this is kind of a Universe 6 based deck. A lot of people you may see posting deck profiles for this leader going on more blue-yellow option that's a lot more expensive. But what I immediately noticed when looking at the cards is these cards. So there's a bunch of Universe 6 cards in this set, like this Vados that lets you counterplay a card and player. And she's a 19k dual attack, very energy efficient. And she costs 2 mana on your opponent's turn. Same thing with this Champa that you can negate an attack and play a 19k double striker, and cost 2 on your opponent's turn. You've got this hit that lets you counterplay and bounce a low-cost card with a 15k crit and cost less on your opponent's turn. You get this hit you can evolve into, as well as play for 3 mana on your opponent's turn and negate an attack and get a 25k double strike. So all of these cards fit what I would usually call like a tempo archetype. And when you look at SS Kaba, he has an ability that lets you reset a blue energy every time you play, or sorry, once per turn when you play a Universe 6 card on your opponent's turn. So essentially, once per turn when you play all these, good tempo cards on your opponent's turn, you can get an energy. So that seems cool. We've got some cool things like Frost and his evolution, able to kind of come out and take care of your opponent's stuff and get some decent bodies on the field. I don't know if this is the unison I would use for the deck, but it is a pretty decent tempo unison. This SS Khalifa, you won't be able to use the minus ability because it's for the Kale deck, but overall, it can still be a 20k attacking unison every turn that bumps one of your opponent's low cost battle cards back to hand. So I think this is an interesting card. And then you just kind of have some general U6 low drops that you want to play. So I'm going to be looking out for kind of playing a mid-range tempo Universe 6 blue deck with this. And all of these cards are rather cheap. Next, we have black with Finn. Finn is a new character coming in this set. I think he's very interesting. He lets you take your opponent's battle cards and put it under him and absorb their effects on his awaken side. He can awaken essentially as soon as your opponent plays a battle card that doesn't have barrier. So I think this is a very interesting build-around card. And interestingly, there's only one super rare or higher card for this entire deck, and it's not even really relevant to the archetype. So that's what made it very interesting to me. So we have a couple cool things like this 1-drop Toa that helps us search out a bunch of our cards that work with the deck, as well as she has an activate main ability where you can pay a mana and spirit boost, and you can actually discard one of the battle cards you put under your leader. So it basically gives you like a permanent removal option on a common 1-drop, only combined with your leader. You also get this cool uncommon Skill Hunter Toa that basically lets you counterplay in your opponent's turn and put one of their battle cards 4 or less under your leader. That's really cool and interesting because it'll stay under there until the end of your opponent's next turn, I believe. And, this can be really useful for, setting up targets or setting up things to discard with this card. Seems like a very good combo. Then we've got Finn Unison Absorber. This Finn allows you to basically, when you play it or combo it, or you can kind of play it by comboing with an energy, and it lets you kind of absorb a unison under it and put it back with its skills negated. That's one of the important things about this too, is all of these cards, when you absorb their battle cards, they usually go back to your opponent's field, but with their skills negated. So you kind of get to play a game of kind of negating all your opponent's good card skills. You have a very good uncommon unison with this deck. This Majin Buu, he can't be attacked by skillless cards, so all these cards you're stealing can't go away. He has a nice +1 that makes him a 20k on attack. And he draws a card whenever you play skillless cards in your opponent's battlefield, which you're gonna do, probably most turns. So it's kind of a draw unison as well. Pretty good card. The big boss card for the deck is a rare, which is very interesting for budget players. This kind of lets you take every single battle card they have in play, ignoring barrier, and take it out. Then you can drop it with its own effect with Spirit Boost, or you can end up dropping it with your 1-drop Toa. This just is a very strong card. And you get some support like this Absorption of Doom. You kind of basically get to. It's a little bit worse than a Flying Nimbus, but you can kind of play it for free and limit your opponent's attacks. You get cool stuff like this 1-drop Deborah that kind of replaces itself with a draw, as well as gets barrier and blocker when your opponent has a skillless card in play. So it can be pretty good. And then you also get this Deborah you can play for a single mana when your opponent has a skillless card in play and gets the draw every time it attacks. So I think this is very interesting. Overall, I think this archetype is extremely affordable, and it's one I'm going to be building for black. Next, for yellow, we have the Great Ape Son Gohan. This is a very interesting leader because it doesn't permanently awaken. What it does is it basically flips back and forth between its Great Ape form and its child form when you either play a field card or when a field card is sent to your drop area. And on it also resets energy when it does that and gives pumps mattering on what side. Another very interesting thing about the card is when it attacks, you get to set one of your opponent's cards to rest mode and give it 5k. And if it KOs a battle card, you get to attack again with it. So you can basically attack into a battle, any battle card you want that doesn't have barrier, that you rest itself with the card, 20k, knock it out, and then swing again, rest another card, get rid of your opponent's blocker or something, and you're swinging in for 25k on their leader. So to me, this leader by itself, with some of the field support, seems very strong and could be a very strong build-around card, even without a lot of expensive support. It's not too much to talk about with this leader. I mean, we've got this Higher Dragon and Son Gohan card that lets us basically play a field from the top 7 cards of our deck, enables our leader, switches them over, and also lets us drop a field and kind of bean our leader on our opponent's turn. So it's a very good card. Got this Krillin we can kind of put field cards back into play with. There's this Higher Dragon that lets us kind of discard our own field cards and draw so that we can kind of get our flips off. We've got this Great Ape Son Gohan we can kind of play for a mana when a field card is destroyed, so it's a nice 19k blocker we can play and rest something. You know, there's a lot of common field cards in the set. This Forest Fire and Higher Dragon's Home that helps us search out some of our, Saiyans or monsters in our deck, as well as these cards kind of discard themselves, so they enable our leader swings. And there's a fairly nice, but not really on theme, common unison from this set that you can run. I'm not sure if I would run this in this deck or not. We'll kind of see as I build it, but it's a good option. Last but certainly not least, at least in my opinion, is green. We have Saiyan Saga Vegeta. Now, the important thing I'd like to mention for this leader is that what really drew me to this isn't necessarily about the leader, but it's more about these cards right here. The Great Ape Vegeta and Great Ape Raditz. These cards are very, very nice cards that I think are very good and very affordable. So they kind of draw me towards this. Basically, you can play these a multitude of ways. When you have field cards in play, when your blockers get destroyed, you get to play this 20k Great Ape Vegeta, attack every turn for 20k and drop a card from their hand. Great Ape Raditz can remove their big minions. It's just kind of really good. Combined with, this is the first super rare, or second, I guess, we've talked about today, but is actually the cheapest super rare in the set right now, is this 1-drop Vegeta right here that kind of gets from your deck this Vegeta's Powerball. This enables you to basically, when one of your Saiyan blockers die, you can pay a mana, replace it with a Great Ape, those cards from earlier. We also have, the 1-drop blocker Raditz to go with their Great Ape Raditz. We got some free play blocker Vegetas to go with our Great Apes. You also have the option of running the blocker Gohan and his ape with the blocker Revenge is a good tech option, also cheap. You do have this super rare. This is relatively cheap too. This can kind of enable you to go into a red-green build that might be interesting to look at. I'm not sure if I'm going to be red-green or not when I try it. You got some decent cards like this rare Nappa, 15k, crit your opponent, and drop a card from their hand, so you kind of just get some advantage overall from it. There's some thoughts with this leader of playing, you could either play Vegeta. Vegeta basically puts your opponent in a lock position where they're basically forced to either attack into your blocker Saiyans, which become apes when they block, or they can remove them, in which case it procs as auto and lets you draw and discard a card from your opponent's hand. So this is an interesting choice. You can also run with this the new Reboot Raditz from the pre-release event, if you were able to pick this up. Relatively cheap, I think, in its non-gold stamp version. So I think that this ape stuff could work good in this too, but I'm going to be, with either of these leaders, I'm going to be very keen on building this deck in this format. So, And that's what we have it for Saiyan Showdown. I kind of have these 5 decks. We've got Goten, we've got Kaba, we've got Yellow Gohan, Finn, and Vegeta. And my plan on this channel is to build a budget deck for all 5 of these archetypes. And I'll be posting it, over the coming weeks. So please check out the channel and like and subscribe. And thank you very much.